Okay. So your file system is it's a most visible aspect of an operating system, right? And it provides a mechanism for storing your data and accessing your data, and it can be a program or some plain text, right? It stores that, and the file system it consists of two distinct parts. File system contains two distinct parts. The one is collection of file, right? A collection of files, each storing related data, or you can say file. And the other is and a directory structure which organizes and provides information about all the files in the system, right? That can be a directory, and we have a file. So file system is consist of this thing, right? And this file system, where it lives on devices, right? And we have file protection, file management, all these stuffs that comes under this, right? So first let's understand what is file. So file, I can say it's a logical unit, right? It's a logical storage unit, you can say logical storage unit, because whatever we write we store it. How to store that, right? The data that you are storing in your hard disk and all that are in some binary format or hexadecimal format. Now user cannot interpret that thing directly, right? So you require some conversion in between. So what we do, we write in the file, then those data will be converted in this binary information, and that is stored. Now when we read the file, at that time those data, right, will be converted into particular type. The file, the way we stored in that format, it will be read, right? So sometimes it may happen like you have stored data in some format and you are opening it with another application, right? So in that application you might not get a proper data which you cannot even read, right? So for that you must have a proper application to open your data, right? Sometimes some file you want to open in Word doc, it might possible it will not open in doc, and sometime you try with WordPad, you are getting the proper data. Why? Because it supports that format. That's why, right? So reading, that is actually a logical thing, right? So files are mapped by the operating system onto physical devices, right? And these storage devices are usually non-volatile, like your hard disk, your pen drive. So after power goes, at that time also you have your data, right? We want permanent storage. So files can be sequence of bits, sequence of bytes, then sequence of records, right? So this can create a file. Now which are the attributes of file? Which are the attributes of file? So with file, what is associated? Name, right? We access to this, so name is associated. Identifier is there. Identifier is there. File type is there, right? Location where you store this, then size of the file, what is the size of file, protection mechanism, time, date, user identification, right? All things we can see. If you have tried in like in Windows as well, you will see these different attributes, right? So name, so this is a, you can say, symbolic file name, right? So we can read, a human can read in this format, right? Identifier. This identifier is a unique tag, and usually this is a number, and it identifies the file within the file system. It identifies the file within the file system, means unique to that file system, right? And it's little hard to interpret this file, right? It is hard to interpret this file, right? But operating system and all uses this only identifier. Then type. So this is the information which needed for system that support different types of file, because we should know how we can open, we can read this file. Suppose someone has written, this is my file, and I don't mention anything, and suppose I have written like this, right? This is space, and I have written like this. Now if I don't specify anything, how you will read? SICCHT, something like this. So we cannot interpret this. But if I specify you, read from this right to left, then you can read it. This is, right? So that way you can interpret. So this kind of information, right? This kind of information required by the file system, and one of that information is type, right? You can have executable file, you can store such some data and program, right? Your doc text file, then .exe file, then some library file .lib file. So that's why you require different types, right? And this is required because your operating system supports multiple types, so it knows in perspective of protection as well. Then location, right? It's just a pointer to device and to locate the your file on that particular device. The size, current size of the file in terms of bytes, or maybe words, or maybe in terms of blocks, but usually we see in terms of bytes the size, right? So these are the different attributes of files. Then the operations, right? File operations, you can say. Okay, so which are the operations? Those are you can say are allowed with the file. Which are the operation that can be performed on files? So your operating system, what you can do, you can create a file, you can delete a file, you can update the file, you can save the file, right? You can truncate your file, you can place it somewhere else, means reposition your file. So these are the different operations that your operating systems um, provide you with the help of system calls, right? So which are the operation? Creating a file, writing into file, right? Writing a file, then reading a file, right? Repositioning your file, deleting your file. We can delete the file as well, right? So delete the file, then you can truncate your file. So these are the some operations that can be performed on file. Okay, so create file. So basic thing. So when you create a file, two steps are required. First, space in the file system must be found for this file. File system means your device where you can allocate memory, like your hard disk, right? Then once that space is there, then what can be done? Entry of this new file must be made in the directory. So then we can locate this file. So once you require space, suppose I am creating just empty file, right, using touch command. So it will create the file, but first some space is required. If it is an empty file also, the attributes are associated with that, right? So we require some space. You can just create simple empty file in your Windows as well and see the size. You will find some size of that particular file, right? So this way you can create your file. So allocate the space and then make an entry in the directory. Then writing a file. So to write a file, right, so we want a system call specifying both the name of the file and the information that we want to write to the file, right? To which file you want to write and what is the content that you want to write. And the system must keep the track of write pointer to the location in the file, so from where we can write, right? Suppose I have started writing from here, and right now I am here and new information is arriving, so I need to write from here, right? So write pointer will take care of that thing. Okay, so whenever you write something, your write pointer must be updated. Write pointer must be updated, right? Then reading a file, same way you can read the file. Once you read, next block must be brought from your hard disk to your file. And same what we had with this write pointer, same thing, you have a read pointer that you need to update, right? So it will take what I can say, it track, right, if next block is required. Then repositioning a file, right? So the directory, it can be searched for the appropriate entry, and the current file position pointer is then repositioned to a given value. So this way you can reposition it. So this repositioning within a file need not to involve any actual IO if it is within a file. And this known is file seek, right? So in file, if I want from this to this, I want to reposition, then I don't want any IO, right? Just with the help of seek, I can do this. Seek means it skip this. But repositioning file, okay, and repositioning within a file, right? Two different things, repositioning of file and repositioning within a file. So repositioning of file means you can change the directory and all and make a necessary entry change in the directory. And repositioning within a file, so if you are here and then you want to move to here, that also possible, but that is with the help of seek command. Okay, and this is also known as file seek, and there is a system call also available, seek. Okay, deleting a file. So deleting a file, so to delete, first we need to search the directory for the given name file, and once we found that, the associated directory entry, right, we release all file space so that can be reused by other files, and also erase the directory. So somewhat a reverse step of this create, right? But first we need to search in the directory. Once we found the entry, the space we will be erasing, And then after releasing all the space, what we'll do? We will delete the entry from directory as well. Okay, so this is deleting the file. Yes. Any doubt in this? Any doubt in this?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. The next is when you open your file, some informations are stored with the help of some file pointer, right? And this is useful for reading and writing your file that we have seen, write pointer, read pointer. Then file open count, disk location of the file, and access write. Right, this piece of information are associated with an open file. File pointer, file open count, then disk location of the file and access rights. Okay, so file pointer, access right, somewhat we can guess, like do we have access of reading a file, do we have access of writing to the file, or do we have access to execute the file, right? Disk location of the file, that we can understand, right? If we want to modify the content or something, after modifying, your operating system will write that modified data to hard disk, right? Because where we are storing this data in file system, what is that? Your hard disk and something. So we want consistent data. So if you modify or your process modify that data, you need to store that, right? So you require this disk location, right? કારણ કે ખબર પડશે કે ક્યાંથી આ એક્ઝેક્ટ કઈ લોકેશન ઉપરથી ડેટા આવે છે. Then file open count. It might possible that the file may be open by so many processes, right? If it is shared file, then it may be opened by other processes as well, right? So it will maintain the count as well, and you have some data structure which maintain this count. કે એક જ ફાઇલ છે એ એક પ્રોસેસે ઓપન કરી છે તો એ કાઉન્ટ એનો ઇન્ક્રીમેન્ટ કરતો રહેશે. When after closing the file, if count goes 0, then and then your file will be closed and the data, if modified, will be returned to the hard disk. Okay, so these are some of the informations which are accessed by the associated with the open file. Okay, then you might not might you are 100% aware about this file types, right? So whenever you see some file, it is in this format, name dot extension, right? But if you are opening specific file, we are not mentioning this thing, we are just mentioning file name. Automatically it will add this portion. So why this is useful? Because operating system provides different file types, right, that is supported, and these file types required by particular application. Suppose I am opening .doc file, then office is required. Okay, so these informations are required. So there are different types of file, and their functions are there, like file types, executable file types, .exe, .com, .bin, right? So it's a read to run machine language program. These are the file types. Then your object file, it is a compiled, right? Your compiled file. We have seen a dot out, right? Then obj extension. These are the object file. Your source code .c file, .java file, .asm, that is after assembly. Your assembler will generate that. Your batch file .batsh, batch, not extension is .bat, bat, that is of batch file. And your sh that we have used, right, in its commands to the command interpreter, this batch file. Then your text .txt, .doc, .docx, right, library file, your archive file .zip, .arc that we have seen, right, and multimedia file mpeg for image .avi. So these are the different file types. So you can see those type and you can identify, right? ઘણી આપણે ફાઇલ ટાઈપ જોઈને પણ કહી દઈએ છીએ કે આ તો વિડીયો હશે, ઇમેજ હશે, ટેક્સ્ટ હશે, like that. So that is required for your operating system as well, right? Any doubt in this? I think these are the theoretical perspective. Still, if you have doubt, then you can ask. Okay, now next is access method. How you can access your file. So there are different ways to access the file, right? So one is access method. One is sequential access. File is accessed sequentially, means next block by next block. Okay, so your editors compile usually access file in this fashion, sequential access, right? Direct access, right? I want to read block number 14, I want to read block number 53. So these are the direct access method. I can directly read that, right? So your database and all, they are this kind of using this kind of access method, that is direct access method. Okay, so in if I need to write the operation for this, then what I can write, like for sequential, this, the reading is like this, read, next, and next will be incremented, right? And writing is also same, because sequential writing is there. Write next means at this position it will write. But here same thing, I want to write for direct access method, then what I can do, as this is a direct access method, ये +1 ही इंक्रीमेंट करेगा, राइट? बट डायरेक्ट मेथड में क्या होगा, रीड, I can have some CP, right, some variable you can say, So I am reading from this. I am reading from this. राइट एंड सेम थिंग आई वांट टू कन्वर्ट, तो मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा, ये इंक्रीमेंट करना पड़ेगा CP+1, तो ये भी रीड नेक्स्ट हुआ, राइट, बट इन टर्म्स ऑफ डायरेक्ट एक्सेस। डायरेक्ट एक्सेस में फिर आप ये रीड नेक्स्ट नहीं कर सकते, नहीं तो वो तो नेक्स्ट नेक्स्ट ही इम्प्लीमेंट करेगा और नेक्स्ट को इंक्रीमेंट करता जाएगा, ये फिक्स है, राइट। सो इन डायरेक्ट एक्सेस मेथड दिस वैल्यू इज चेंज। सपोज मुझे 50 रीड करना है, right, so read 50, you can directly read that. Then राइट को लिखना है तो क्या, जस्ट यू नीड टू रिप्लेस दिस रीड विथ राइट, राइट CP and CP+1. Okay, so these are the two methods, sequential and direct. Other methods are also there, like index method. The similar to the concept is similar to the paging that we have seen. Paging में हम क्या करते, मल्टी लेवल पेजिंग में क्या आउटर मोस्ट पेज टेबल था, उसमें से हमें कोई एक पेज टेबल मिलता था और वो in that page table we are finding the value. So same way some bunch of relative files are stored somewhere कि पूरा content कहीं पे है, and then from that index I will go to the directory and then I will search the file and access my data, right? But that is somewhat a rare case. Okay, any doubt in this? अभी थोड़ा आगे थियरी पोर्शन है, लिटिल बिट बोर करेगा, but later on you will enjoy in this. Any doubt in this? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, so if you don't have any doubt, then we will stop here.